Okay, so we're talking about bonus finishing techniques using layer styles. So I'm going to cancel this just so I can show it to you from the beginning. I've added highlights to my flat image, but now I'm going to go in and I'm going to use layer styles to start adding shadows, gradients, textures, things like that. And as long as you have the vector made and you understand its properties, you can do lots of cool things with it, to it, that are also infinitely scalable, like changing its color. But instead of double clicking here to change its color, I'm going to double click here to open up what are called layer styles. And so one of these is drop shadow. It's on the very bottom. These are the basic layer style options. So you click on it and then you click it like a layer to get its options. It's going to remember whatever was last used. So I used purple last and I used it as a dissolve. I'll talk you through all that stuff. But its default is usually just going to be black, right? So now I have a black shadow. It's about at a 50% opacity. I'll maybe take that down a little bit. But the problem is it's centered. I want to make that more directional. So I'm going to play with the angle of it to match my highlight, and then the spread of it, and take down the size of it, and increase the distance. So you can see how now it's growing off of one side. And then I can increase the size, and that will soften out the shadow a little bit. Now if I want it to go down a little bit more, which I do, I can angle it up like that. So it's not coming out of the top as much. And if I do spread, I can stretch it out. Size will thin it out. So it's a little bit on one side, but mostly on the other side. All right. Now, what if I don't want the black color, though that's kind of nice and easy? I could use a darker brown color instead. Or pick my own color. The other thing I can do, that's on the outside, I can also do an inner shadow. Now an inner shadow is the same kind of thing. You change the color to this. It's directional the same way, but you play with distance and you play with size. And then you can see this noise factor, noise, which you also have for drop shadow. If you want to add texture, you can add kind of a pixelated grain to it. And I can reverse that edge, and I can increase the distance, soften it out, and then really take that opacity down. So now it really looks like there's kind of a bump, ridged up. But it can get overdone too, so you can always turn these attributes on and off. So maybe I'll take the opacity down just a little bit more. It's on multiply mode. Okay, next, I can apply those same settings. This is what I love about layer styles. I can right click and I can copy those layer styles, and I can apply them to another shape like this one. Paste layer style. And I'll put those same attributes onto the inside of the fox. So what does it look like without them? Like that, with them, right there. And I can take those same attributes and I can put them on the ears. Right click, paste layer style. And the other ear. Paste layer style. All those settings. They can always be turned on and off. I can do it to the eyes. Same drop shadow. I can do it to the nose. And so it will make everything look like it's kind of lit in the same condition. And lastly, I'll do it to no, I'm not going to do it to the tongue. Because the problem with the tongue is the tongue overlaps with the outside edge. And if I do a drop shadow that overlaps with the outside edge, then it will be look weird on different backgrounds, right? Because there shouldn't be a drop shadow where there is nothing. Now, what if I wanted to texture it? Let me take, let's see, a whisker. And I can apply it. If I wanted to apply it to the whole whisker, I can do that. But again, I don't want to drop shadow off of nothing. So here I might just do the inner shadow. And I might change its settings a little bit, just so it has a little bit of a shadow at the bottom. Just like that. Then I can copy that attribute. So you can also do it to layer groups. Say copy layer style. And I can paste it to all these other whiskers. Okay, now the only thing is it feels like it's all kind of too washed out. So now I'm going to go to this layer again, and I'm going to add some more effects by double-clicking on the effects. And I'm going to add satin. Let me see. And I'm going to change it to lighten. I'm going to up the opacity. And I want to use this as a brighter version of the color. Right? Maybe about there. Just like I kind of did at the inside of the ears, now I've brightened it up a little bit. So you'll see what that satin does. Yeah. Kind of helps. Big difference from when I did it originally. Now, texture, you can add as well, but you have to use a texture that you either import or bring in. And I like the water defaults that they have. It's basically like an embossed kind of paper. And you can scale it. So if I use that water, but I use it at a really small scale, right, it will look like embossed paper, and then I can lighten the depth of it. Like so. And then I can also play with the overall opacity of it. So it's just a really subtle texture. And then I might want to apply that to the ears as well. So I'll copy this layer style and do it to the interior of the ears so that they have a little bit more contrast. And now I'm just kind of riffing, seeing what I like. And what's great about these layer styles is I can always just turn them off. But this would be a 2.0 version of my Fox design. And all I would need to do to get back to the original is just turn off the eyeball on the effects. All right, so now I'm going to save that with a different name. First I'll save my PSD file, which has all those options there. And then I'm going to say export. Oh, that would be, you would do export if you were doing Photop. Here we're going to do save a copy out of Photoshop and just change it to a PNG. But before I hit save, I need to change the name so it doesn't overwrite my other one. And I'm going to say flat 2. Or I'll just say flat 2. Or maybe just version 2. Okay. It's optional, but you can then post that. And it's kind of fun to compare them. So here's the flat emoji. And then I will add my flat 2.0, which seems like it takes a lot of extra work. But if you have the vector shapes and you just use the layer styles, you can build it up pretty quickly. Remember, you can drag down here to get more space, and I'll just put these all side by side. All right. So we're going to start your presentation critique. The question I want you to answer is, what are aspects of your emoji would scale the best? And if I'm looking at my flat 2.0 one, I think it's the eyes, the nose, the silhouette, those scale well. The things that scale the worst are probably the tongue and then the tiny little highlights, right? Those will get lost if it was just in a text. But as one way to check it is if you squint and you can still tell what's going on. When I squint, this one and this one, they kind of lose definition in the face. That's because the value contrast of the background with the eyes is not that strong. So the highlights on the nose and the eyes really help that to always be present, even when it gets scaled down.